fine. Everything's fine. Did I do it right?
Yes.
Excellent. Is the sound right? Is the mic right?
You sound great.
Thanks. Hi. Welcome to Unity's New Thought and World Religion class. My name is Greg Lee. Today I am doing part 2 of my talk entitled Practical Techniques for Maintaining Christ Consciousness. Thank you for joining us. Hi, guys. First things first, I have scattered some handouts on the table. Those are fun. It's the same one as last week, so if you didn't bring one home last week, then this is your opportunity, but also it doesn't matter.
Oh, they're different.
They are different. There are 4 different pages. That was an interesting. There are 4. We'll read through some of these today, but there are 4 different pages. There are 6 total topics of quotes. Each topic will have 2 quotes attached to it. So you'll see one way of describing breath and then another way of describing breath to compare and see if you can draw connections within your own mind. So how did everyone do this last week with maintaining Christ consciousness? What techniques did you use? Did you notice successes, failures? Were you able to integrate anything that we talked about into your lives? Were you able to successfully execute techniques that you wanted to try? Did anyone try something new? So today, I'm going to give a few more specific examples from my own life, or rather my own readings that serve just as examples for people to when they need to remember who they are. One book that we read recently in our household, well, rather actually I was shared the teachings with by Rachel, was The Complaint-Free World. Yes, it's a complaint-free world, which the individual technique that takes place in that book, that is espoused in that book, is to wear a bracelet, much like the bracelet I'm wearing. This is a rubber band. It's not a very expensive bracelet. And when you have a complaint, when you complain, you are to remember and notice your bracelet and then move it from one wrist to the other. Now, I prefer a little light thwack as a sharper reminder, plus the stylistic choice of the bracelet always being on the left can be important for some. So, when you remind yourself and interrupt your train of thought when you have a complaint and you notice and you see that you have a complaint or you have complained, interrupting that train of thought before it gets too far away from the station is the way that you would remind yourself who you are and where you're actually meant to be, instead of chasing and following that train of thought all the way down to its logical conclusion about how everyone in the world sucks. Which you can get there pretty easily. I mean, you just look around. But the point is to not get there. The point is to never let yourself, to arrest your, quote, downward momentum as early as possible before it has had a chance to take root in your mind and begin to amplify itself. When we say complaints, in a complaint-free world, some would say, yes, every time I call my neighbor Ann and I tell her about how much of an asshole Bob is, that's obviously bad to complain about your neighbor to another person, the gossip thing. These are complaints. The bananas at Walmart were gross. These are complaints, and when you verbalize them, you put kind of a discordant vibe out into the world, out into the reality around you. But more than that, because those are easy to avoid. It's extremely easy to just not bitch about someone. Like you can stop yourself. That's a pretty obvious take. That's a pretty obvious ability. But what is more important, and like Jesus would say, if you commit it in your heart, so it has been done. Or that's a paraphrase. I don't know the exact phrase, but there is something in the Bible where Jesus says, if you've committed adultery in your heart, it's just as bad as doing it. Jesus said lots of things. Rachel is my dedicated fact checker and might find a quote relating to that in the Bible. The point of complaints is you move your bracelet without ever making a sound with your lips. You complain in your head before you ever consider complaining externally, before you ever even consider affecting change in the physical world around you via the vibrations of your voice. You do that exact same thing via the vibrations of your thought waves, of your thought patterns. You affect the subtler reality. You affect the reality that is below, above, intermixed. You affect the reality that this reality coasts upon like a ship upon the waters with your thoughts. And so when you change your thoughts, the same way you change your behavior here, when you change your thoughts, you're able to take conscious direction of the reality in which we live physically. Okay? Okay? Yeah? Gotta find where my conclusions are.
You're talking about manipulating energy.
Yes. Rachel says, I'm talking about manipulating energy. And yes, the subtler, perceiving and seeing the subtler forms of thought energy that propel our reality around by the technique of switching a bracelet from one wrist to another when you complain. All of the techniques are interchangeable. There is no right way. You are the right way. Every opportunity that you are confronted with in this realm is a thread you can follow that will change and better your life. Every now is a thread you can follow that will change or better your life. And it starts with your own consciousness. So I look over to my right and I see a bunch of books. Every single book picked at random, you can give your attention to enough attention and enough care and love that it will change your life, and it will cause you a consciousness shift that allows you to take conscious control of your own creation. The thread doesn't matter. Pick 100 books, and if it resonates with you and you can follow it and you can amplify its energy and put it into practice in your own life, and all of the gurus and all of the messages, if you resonate with it, it amplifies your energy and you're able to take better control of manipulating the energy around you as you become more powerful through your resonance and integration of the knowledge and the ideas and the thoughts, the memes that you absorb into your own thought patterns, into your own consciousness. That then allows you to project better and further into the reality as you think thoughts. You can't do it if you're complaining all the time. You're giving away your energy. Okay? Back to there are infinite amounts of threads in the now that you have the ability to follow. Right? These are your thoughts following different threads, different concentrations, different books, different gurus, different self-help programs, different anything. And they're all interchangeable if they're working from the right, if they're pointing in the right direction, they're going to be interchangeable. You can do it, any of it. So my point, and what I want to try a little bit this class, because we will do discussion here shortly. I want to try, in the same way we're not going to complain, we are also not going to share anyone's ideas but our own. We're not going to talk about this person says, we're not going to talk about this person teaches, we're going to talk about what works for us. I want to hear about you, not anyone else. That's what allows me to know you and not just know what you've read or what you've watched. That's genuinity. That's authenticity. Is taking control and taking ownership of your own consciousness, taking control of your own spiritual journey and your own level of integrated. Yes, absolutely. So we're going to try that because that's. We don't have a mic out here. Oh, well, no, that's true. Well, I think Mr. John might be assisting us because I do want to hear things. I do want to talk. I test that one. It looks like it's good. It's good. It's good. So, being able to live in such a way. So the book, The Complaint-Free World, challenges the reader to go a day, 30 days without moving your bracelet from one wrist to the other. Can you imagine what a change in your life that would be if you had no complaints for 30 days straight? I am talking a night and day paradigm shift. But you'll find, well, a lot of people find, that it can be challenging to go a day without having any sort of complaint about another being or another situation or something external to you happens. You might think annoying thoughts more often than you might be surprised about how often. So that brings me a little bit to my quote here, the first and only step to seeing is choosing to see. This is on middle on page 4. When you move your bracelet, that's you seeing. When you notice your complaints, that's you seeing your own thought waves. That's you seeing your own patterns of reality. I know several people that when they talk, they complain. And it may be the only thing I hear from them. I'm not convinced that it's not, but complaints are common. More common than I think a lot of people realize. It's very subconscious in a lot of people because they have written these thought patterns into their minds. And so when they try to share a thought with you, it is, in a lot of cases, a complaint. Your job, as the receiver of that sort of thought form, is to absorb it, inspect it, dissipate it, and not integrate the negativity into your own level of consciousness. Because if you so choose, they're looking, like I said, the forgiveness here, they're looking, when they complain and want sympathy from you, they want something from you, they are looking to anchor into you and bring you to their resonance, their energy level, because it's without the crisis level of drowning, but maybe with the crisis level of drowning, if you are not a strong swimmer yourself and you try to go save a drowning person, you're the most likely one to drown, because they will climb up you like a ladder to get that breath of air. People are doing this to you mentally. It's on you to set your appropriate boundaries that will not cause you to get dragged under. If you are very used to complaining about this person every day in your life, or one of your friends calls you to complain about her husband or his wife, and they talk to you routinely in a negative fashion, they've just dug themselves a rut and are siphoning from you as you accept it and feel bad. And they feel better by offloading that burden onto you. Rachel.
One of the important parts of that book that we were discussing too was as you go through this exercise of trying to complain less and less and avoid doing that in and of yourself, you actually transform yourself into a person who is difficult to complain to. Because if you don't feed energy into those complaints and into that negativity, that person has to go somewhere else to get it. And so you can actually transform all of the relationships that you have in your life too, and improve the relationships that you have with the people around you. If they're not able to come to you with complaints and they value your relationship, they will find something else to talk to you about. And it's beautiful the way that we've seen that change in our lives with the people around us, that just in a year and a half's time of consciously deciding to not engage in those conversations
And accept and...
we've got more fruitful relationships now.
Absolutely. And family is hardest. Oh, man. Family is the hardest. Easy.
The experience I had with that was when I was in a dialectical behavior therapy consultation team, and we were doing the stuff about judgment, where you had to identify 98% of complaints are judgments.
Wow.
So we did two exercises. One was we would track this every time we had a judgmental thought through a 24-hour day.
Write it down.
And count them down.
Seeing it.
Yeah. And then the other one was when we were in a team together, one person did not speak and did nothing but ring a bell every time somebody made a judgmental statement.
Yeah.
And then the group had to figure out what was the judgmental statement that was made within the group. And after that experience, then I went, I had a weekend that I just chose to be silent and not say a word, and only communicate with the people I communicated with 3x5 note card. and those few experiences just in that just totally, it just makes it so starkly obvious.
Transformative.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was my experience.
Beautiful. That's a thread. That's a thread that people follow to attain a desired consciousness shift. Like, you got something out of it, got something positive out of it, integrated it into your life and your consciousness, and are thereby greatened by it, are ascended by it. Like you feel better as you think better. It all flows together. Where was I going next? Yes, I was going there.
Thank you. This seems very weird to talk on a mic in a Sunday school class, and also to have it recorded. But I decided I wanted to start coming to Sunday school class because I like interaction. And as I sat here a while ago, I thought, well, if I'm not going to interact, then what's the point?
That's exactly.
So my first thought, if I'm not on some kind of TV and I'm not talking to them on mic, is to ask Rachel, "Is this your bracelet?"
Yeah, so my scrunchie changes all the time. But I actually have a specific one that I sought out at a gift shop and purchased so that it's...
I like the softer approach of that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to compare this to kind of like what he was saying about judgment, because that's what I'm looking at right now is judgment and how often I judge. And every second, really. You don't know you're judging. It's so natural. And so I know probably everybody in here knows Byron Katie and listens to Byron Katie, but she does a once a week Zoom that you can participate in. And I try to get on that as often as I can. But what I notice about that Zoom is how much I'm judging during the Zoom. It brings my awareness to watch myself, because when you're working on a worksheet, and does everybody know who I'm talking about? Byron Katie, okay. When you're working on a worksheet with her, someone in the listening audience is participating with her with their worksheet, and you're applying it to your life. So you're not listening to somebody and then just listening to what their wisdom is, but you're applying it to your life. So I noticed that as I'm listening to someone talk in this that I instantly start judging. I start thinking, well, their problem is not important enough for this for this Zoom conference,
Right.
But what I see Byron Katie doesn't see that. She has that pure love instantly for whatever your problem is, however trivial it is, or whatever it is, she just delves into it. So I usually have to watch, and you can record, or they are recorded, and so you can watch them again. So I usually have to watch the first one because I'm in total judgment. And then the second time I listen to it, I actually hear what Byron Katie's saying. But I'm always so amazed of how judgmental I am. And I don't mean to be judgmental, and I don't think I'm judgmental. But when I watch those Zooms, I see, oh my gosh, I'm judging everything all the time. Thank you.
You are the judge, jury, and executioner of your own life. Every moment. So what part of you is doing that? I would posit the ego is where your judgment is originating from.
That's a natural thing. We learn how to judge by how we're raised. I mean, our parents are and you have to make judgments to decide what you're going to do. Is this a better thing to do, or is that a better thing to do? Mm-hmm. So we have to make judgments in order to progress, to go forward. But we learn, I still have this thing in my head. I had a teacher say, well, she's just a dreamer about me. And I decided dreaming was bad. And I haven't dreamed for, so everybody around you pick it up because that's so much of the society that we live in. So it's just becoming aware and learning when judgments are things that are necessary and when they're not. Because there are some times that judgments are necessary because we can't go forward without them.
Absolutely. That's how you make any decision.
Wow, you're a dreamer.
And that's a good thing.
Well, that's right.
So I wanted to add on to that also for what Rachel said, that your response to people whenever they're judging you, and as a parent, is huge. And so like yesterday, I called a friend who I haven't talked to in a long time, and she literally was so angry with me and bawled me out I had no idea she was mad at me. And so I just watched myself in receiving that. And at first I was like compassionate, and then I got defensive. And I went to bed with defensive. I always like to see who I sleep with. And so through the night, so when I woke up this morning, I went, wait a minute, I don't have to defend myself. And she's just doing the best she can. And she was really asking for love, of course, miracle stuff. And then, right before I come to church, I get this text message from another friend who starts attacking me. And I'm like, whoa. And so I feel I'm really learning this thing about, in my defense, Course in Miracle lesson, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. So I don't have to defend anything, but not knowing really what to do with that yet, other than just see it and just practice seeing it.
Seeing it at the very beginning. They were able to unload or share with you a consciousness of that. And as you started to resonate there with the defensive, with the like, yes, I'll meet you and I'm upset with you back, they're by their burden. Their level is falsely, like it's all kind of an illusion anyway, but they feel better by giving that to you. Your boundaries are what will keep you from receiving and integrating that, and it'll make an amazing change in your life. Go.
So in my own life, I like to people watch, and one thing I've noticed is the people that always come up to you. There's only two types of people: they want to give you, or they want to take from you. All honesty, like you sit somewhere as long as you want, there are only two types of people that will walk up to you. They're giving to you or they're taking from you. It's really interesting when you start breaking down those two, though. And then one reason I don't really care for judgment, and I prefer to sit and just meditate on self most of the time. Maybe that's the narcissist in me, who knows. Anyway, but it's really interesting. So I was sitting at a bar this weekend, and this girl comes up to me, and I know she just wants free drinks, so I'm like, I got the money. My plans for the weekend were already canceled. I planned on being in Illinois, and I'm not there, clearly. But it was really a good evening. I took a lot out of it, just sitting and listening to her. I was like, I'm glad I'm not in that situation, and she was just trying to convince me on how much I should be in her situation, and she's in a 20-year relationship that she's completely unhappy. She's going out of her mind. She has no one to communicate with. Man, I have no one to communicate with, but I already knew I was going out of my mind before I got to that point. Bad joke, maybe.
There's those opportunities everywhere you look.
So I was just like, I had the extra money. I was just sitting and buying her drinks, and at the end of the night, I was just like trying to give her advice and stuff, and then she just left crying. I don't know. I guess she felt like she was unique since I was talking to her, and then I started talking to someone else, and I feel like the energy from watching her while I was having that conversation, because of my own hypervigilance. Anyway, it was just like, man, she wasn't as unique as she thought she was. Her feelings were hurt, and it's just like I have generic conversations with everybody 95% of the time. I don't share inner thoughts because I meditate. I don't know if that makes sense. So when I come around people, my point is, when I come around people, I see more judgment than when I just sit. Because when I'm sitting and people come up to me, they're coming with their judgments rather than me coming and getting judged. I don't know if that makes sense, but I see that more often than not.
So I'll throw out...
I hear you have boundaries, too.
Celestine prophecy, very much in the people are trying to give from you or take from you. It's people have their own stores of energy and interact with each other in that way. In the same, to pivot a little bit into our judgment talk and draw a connection between something else, that's very much an assumption, perhaps from like the Four Agreements. When you judge someone else for anything that they do, you pretty much have to make an assumption about some aspect of the behavior, some aspect of the person, some aspect of what is and isn't correct. And one of the great successes that we have had at our store, even in just everyday life, if you apply these principles to every now, which is work, which is home, which is stress, which is comfort, which is cooking dinner, which is waking up, which is consoling a grieving friend, every now you have to control it. Every now you have to see it. There's no time that you aren't alive. Or you switch off and you spend that time unalive. The Four Agreements have been mandatory reading, mandatory philosophy in our business. We made all of our employees read it. We made all of our employees discuss it, essentially, and be able to explain what it meant. And just like snapping or moving a bracelet, when you complain in your own head, we made an agreement to call each other out when you're not being impeccable with your word, when you're making assumptions, when you are not doing your best. All of the Four Agreement things have been a great way of rewiring your consciousness. Again, all of these tools are interchangeable. There is no right one. Every single tool is interchangeable. Yes?
This is probably a mom question, but sometimes your observations can be received as criticisms or complaints. There are other corollaries, like at work there's analysis where I write a story and a designer designs the page and I say, well, this color might be better as this color, or this image might suggest this and we wouldn't want that. So there's simple analysis.
Constructive criticism.
Yes, but there's also I won't identify them, but two younger people who live in my house. One of them, I told him, oh, we should wash your face. You got a smudge here before we go out. Mom, or this person said, lady, why are you always criticizing me? And also another person in my house, I said, oh, you know, your room is usually so much nicer than this. I wonder if you're feeling a little depressed because there's a lot of clutter. Mom, lady, why are you always criticizing me? And it's like, didn't intend it as a criticism, but an observation and maybe a lady duty in my house. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Can you talk about some of those corollaries to complaining?
So my first thought was on the surface, it's very easy to react to that sort of. You reach out and then you get slapped back, right? You get your energy, your connection seeking is rebuffed. It's very instant and very surface level for us to, oh, that's a them problem. Wow, I wish they hadn't acted like that. It's very easy to take that rebuffing and match it again with your own energy. To be rebuffed and to like find conflict there and internalize they are blah 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 blah. They're having a bad day. Why are they so mean? And that's such human nature. But it's us. You are the only one that can write your own narrative because you're doing it all the time. And reaching out with your perceived love. You know, I make mistakes all the time. All the time, like, that was not my intention. This is, I thought I was being nice, or I thought I was blah, 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 by all these things, and when you're blindsided or hurt by it not being received in the manner into which you expected, that's an opportunity to reevaluate and re-understand yourself and the relationship itself and also all of this to say in normal, like in human interaction, but on the other hand, you can let it slide off your back like water off a duck and say kids are kids. But the important thing is you are negligent, like you don't allow any sort of negativity to negatively affect you, and you don't carry it forward to the next time, and the next time, and the next time. It's gone. 70 times 7. Forgiveness means it never happened. Because you're no longer carrying any sort of the negativity from the last interaction forward with you. You're not burdened by that. Rachel, please expand.
I was also going to say that the instances that you were talking about, I would not call them complaints. I don't think you were complaining about another person's appearance. I don't think that you were complaining about an environment. I think that you were trying to enrich something and teach something. And sometimes my children will take it as an offense, take it as an insult, take it as a complaint if I don't explain context. And so I have found myself making sure that there is a silly song that we listen to called "Clean Up Your Room," and in the song it explains the profound impact that a clean environment can have on a psyche. If a young person can't understand the impact that an environment has on their psyche, they think that we are just nagging them to clean up their environment because we think it looks nice. And that is complaining, because who cares if it looks nice? You're just complaining. But that's not the goal. And so sometimes revisiting the goal fixes that.
There's no such thing as too much communication, because in this realm that we live in the clumsy use of words and vibrations and slapping meat together, we're slow. We're real slow at communicating, and the thought has to be shared in order to be held by the two people. And if you just say, "Go clean your room," they don't have the way to hold all of the connotations of that entire thought as to why until you say, you clean up your room because blah 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 blah. And a lot of the times kids will be like, I'm done, I get it.